The war that shook the galaxy. In the vast expanse of the galaxy, where countless alien civilizations lived in a fragile balance, one thing was certain: humans were feared. They were not like the other species that lived in the stars. The humans were not born with advanced technologies, nor were they born with immense strength. But what they had, no other species possessed: a fierce determination and an unyielding will to survive. It all began with a war that would forever change the course of the galaxy's history. The humans, who had spent centuries building their civilization, were drawn into conflict when a powerful alien race, known as the Xoreth, declared war on them. The Xoreth were ruthless conquerors who sought to expand their empire by crushing all in their path. Their first target was Earth. When the Xoreth arrived, the humans were unprepared. Their military was small, their technology primitive compared to the advanced alien weapons the Xoreth possessed. Most of the galaxy's leaders laughed at the idea of humans defending themselves. To the Xoreth, it was a simple matter of wiping out a lesser species. But the humans had something that no one else expected: resilience. At first, Earth's military forces were overwhelmed. Cities fell, and the human population was decimated. Yet, the humans did not surrender. They fought back, not just with weapons, but with every ounce of their ingenuity. They turned the tide with makeshift technologies, repurposing anything they could find into a weapon. They learned the ways of the Xoreth, adapted quickly, and hit them where it hurt. The galaxy watched in shock as humans, against all odds, began to win battle after battle. What the Xoreth had thought would be an easy conquest turned into a fierce, unrelenting struggle. Humans showed the galaxy that they were not to be underestimated. The Xoreth, confident in their superiority, found themselves losing ground. This unexpected turn of events sent shockwaves across the galaxy. The other alien races, who had long believed in the superiority of their own civilizations, began to question their assumptions. If humans, who had no advanced technology, could stand toe-to-toe with the mighty Xoreth, what did that mean for the rest of them? In the midst of the war, a council of alien leaders was formed to discuss the human threat. The Xoreth, desperate to end the conflict, made a bold decision. They would use the galaxy's combined resources to destroy humanity once and for all. But even as they gathered their forces, the humans were already making plans of their own. The humans knew that they couldn't defeat the Xoreth through conventional means, but what they had was something even more powerful: the will to survive. They rallied their allies, forming an alliance with other races who had once been their enemies. The alliance was fragile, but it was enough to hold the Xoreth at bay. One by one, the humans and their allies fought back against the Xoreth's overwhelming forces. The Xoreth had underestimated the human spirit, and now they were paying the price. With each victory, humanity gained new ground, and the Xoreth began to realize that they were facing an enemy unlike any they had encountered before. As the war dragged on, the humans adapted. They developed new technologies at an astonishing rate, integrating captured Xoreth technology into their own systems. They learned to fight smarter, not harder, using their limited resources to maximum effect. And most importantly, they never gave up. The war that had started with the simple intention of wiping out humanity had become a fight for survival, not just for Earth, but for the very future of the galaxy. The humans had become the underdog, the David to the Goliath of the galaxy, and the galaxy was watching, holding its breath. The final battle was set to take place in the heart of the galaxy, where the Xoreth's flagship was stationed. The humans had managed to gather an immense fleet, a combination of human and allied ships, all ready to face the Xoreth in a battle that would decide the fate of the galaxy. On the day of the battle, the humans stood firm. They knew that this was their last chance to win the war. They had fought too hard, lost too many, to back down now. The Xoreth, on the other hand, were overconfident. They believed that their superior numbers and technology would ensure their victory. But they had made one critical mistake. They had underestimated humanity. The battle was fierce, with both sides suffering heavy losses. The Xoreth unleashed their most powerful weapons, but the humans fought back with everything they had. Their ships, though smaller and less advanced, were faster and more maneuverable, and their crews were more determined. As the battle raged on, it became clear that the humans were winning. In the final moments, the humans launched a daring attack on the Xoreth flagship. It was a risky move, but it paid off. The Xoreth flagship was destroyed, and with it, the heart of the Xoreth's war effort. The Xoreth forces, demoralized and shattered, began to retreat. The humans had done it. Against all odds, they had defeated the Xoreth. The galaxy was in shock. What was once considered an impossible victory had become a reality. Humanity had shown the galaxy that they were more than just survivors. They were a force to be reckoned with. But the victory came at a cost. The humans had lost countless lives, and their planet was in ruins. The war had left scars that would never fade. And while the galaxy celebrated the defeat of the Xoreth, a lingering question remained. What would humanity do now that they had proven their strength? The war had shaken the galaxy to its core, and its effects would be felt for generations to come. But one thing was certain. The galaxy would never look at humans the same way again. After the humans' unexpected victory over the Xoreth, the galaxy was left in a state of uncertainty. No one had anticipated that humanity, a species once considered insignificant and weak, would rise to defeat the most powerful and ruthless empire the galaxy had ever seen. The news of Earth's triumph spread like wildfire, reaching every corner of space. It shocked allies and enemies alike, and the galaxy could no longer ignore the growing power of the human race. The Xoreth, despite their defeat, were not the only ones who feared humanity. The war had exposed a terrifying truth. Humans were unpredictable, and their resilience made them nearly impossible to defeat. The other alien species that had once looked down on them now found themselves questioning their own safety. The humans had proven that they were capable of doing the impossible. But what if they decided to turn their attention elsewhere? What if they set their sights on more than just survival? The leaders of the galaxy's other races convened in secret, discussing how to handle this new threat. The council meetings were tense. Humans had become an enigma. No one could understand how they had evolved so quickly, nor could anyone predict how far their power could grow. While many alien civilizations had lived for thousands, even millions of years, humans had achieved things in mere decades that others had taken centuries to accomplish. And they did it all with nothing more than sheer determination and a will to survive. We cannot allow them to gain any more influence, a leader from the Xantar race declared in one of the council meetings. Their technology is advancing far too quickly, and their will is stronger than any of us anticipated. If they ever choose to unite as one, we could be wiped out. Another leader from the HFY species, a race known for their intelligence, agreed. We must be cautious. Their ingenuity is unlike any other. They've learned how to adapt in ways we cannot. And once they decide to fight, there will be no stopping them. The council was divided. Some races believed humanity posed a threat that needed to be controlled, while others were unsure how to deal with the sudden rise of this fierce species. But all of them knew one thing for certain. The galaxy could no longer afford to underestimate humans. Meanwhile, on Earth, the humans had returned to their home planet, battered but not broken. The war against the Xoreth had taken a heavy toll. Cities were destroyed, resources were drained, and millions of lives had been lost. But humanity's spirit remained strong. In the aftermath of the war, there was no celebration of victory. Instead, there was a quiet, somber reflection on what had been sacrificed. The human leaders knew the galaxy was watching them. Earth had proven its strength in battle. But the next step was crucial. Would they continue to fight for survival, or would they turn toward peace? The answer was not as simple as it seemed. The humans had tasted victory, and that taste had sparked something inside them. They had proved that they could not only survive but thrive in the face of overwhelming odds. And now they had to decide what to do with that power. In the months that followed, Earth's leaders convened in secret. They knew that the galaxy was scared of what humanity could become, and they had to choose carefully. If the humans continued down the path of war, it would only strengthen the fear and animosity that the galaxy held toward them. But if they chose peace, they risked losing everything they had fought for. As the council met on Earth, they debated their options. One leader stood up, his voice strong and clear. "We cannot let them dictate our future. We have proven ourselves. It is time to take our place among the stars. We cannot allow the galaxy to control us. The power we wield is not a curse, it is our strength." Another leader spoke, more cautious. "But at what cost? If we continue to fight, we may win more battles, but we risk turning the entire galaxy against us. The others will not stop until they have neutralized us completely." The debate raged on, but the decision was clear. Humanity would no longer back down. They would not be bullied into submission by alien powers. They would find a way to live in the galaxy without being controlled, without being threatened. The humans began to build. They turned their attention away from military conflict and toward developing technologies that would ensure their survival. They built new weapons, new ships, new ways to protect themselves. But more importantly, they began to develop technologies that would allow them to shape their own future. They would no longer be at the mercy of any alien race. While the rest of the galaxy trembled in fear of humanity's potential, Earth began to take its first steps toward becoming a true power in the galaxy. But the other races were not blind. They saw the humans building, advancing, preparing, and they knew that something had to be done to prevent humanity from becoming a dominant force. The fear of humans grew. What had once been seen as a victory for Earth now became a symbol of power that no one could ignore. The galaxy, once filled with awe and respect for the great alien empires, now found itself staring at the human race with a mixture of fear and uncertainty. The question that loomed over the galaxy was simple: how long would it take before humanity decided they no longer needed the galaxy's approval? The answer was something no one could predict, but it was coming. And the galaxy would never be the same. The galaxy was on edge. The fear of humanity's rapid rise was not just a whispered rumor anymore. It was becoming an undeniable truth that spread across every corner of space. Despite their victory over the Xoreth, humans were now facing a different kind of war, one that was invisible but no less dangerous. The rest of the galaxy, once dismissive of humanity's strength, now realized they had a new problem on their hands, a force that could not be predicted. Among the alien races, the most powerful, the Sithar, a cold and calculating species, began to take measures. The Sithar had controlled most of the galactic trade routes and maintained a peaceful balance of power for centuries. They viewed humanity as a threat to that balance, and they were determined to neutralize it before it could become too strong. In the heart of the Sithar Empire, the High Command gathered in a vast, dimly lit chamber, its walls adorned with ancient symbols of power. Their leader, Supreme General Zener, stood before the others, his face a mask of calculation. His thoughts were focused on one thing: humanity. "We cannot let them grow any stronger," Zener's voice echoed across the room. "If they unite their forces and develop their technology further, they will become an unstoppable force. We've already seen their potential when they defeated the Xoreth. If we do nothing, we risk our entire way of life." An advisor, a high-ranking officer named Valor, stepped forward, a holographic projection flickering to life before him. It showed a map of the galaxy, with Earth clearly marked in the center. "They are rebuilding, General. They have already begun creating new weapons, advanced technologies we have not even seen before. The human race is resilient, and their ability to adapt and evolve quickly is what makes them so dangerous. We need to act now," Veller said. Zener's eyes narrowed. The Sithar had always been quick to react to threats, and now they had to act fast. The fear was spreading, and it was growing louder. The Sithar were not the only ones who felt the pressure. Other galactic powers began to stir as well. Meanwhile, On Earth, the humans were aware of the growing uncertainty. They had rebuilt, yes, but they knew that peace was fleeting. The galaxy was no longer the safe place it once seemed. Earth had become a symbol of both hope and fear. There was no going back now. Humanity was at a crossroads. President Roderick Vale, the leader of the newly established Earth Council, met with his closest advisors in a secure underground bunker deep beneath the surface. The walls were lined with screens showing galactic news reports, and communication from their ambassadors spread throughout space. Earth has proven its strength. We defeated the Xoreth, and we've been building ourselves back up, Roderick said, his voice steady but filled with a hint of concern. But the question is no longer about our strength. It's about whether the galaxy will allow us to live in peace, or if they'll see us as a threat. An advisor, General Marla Kane, spoke up. They're afraid of us, President. We've shown them what we're capable of. And now, every species in the galaxy is questioning if we're going to come for them next. The Sithar, in particular, are already plotting against us. Roderick nodded solemnly. He had expected this. The Sithar would not take humanity's rise lightly, but there was something more than fear motivating them. It was control. We need to be ready. We need to show the galaxy that we won't be bullied or manipulated, President Vale said, his voice firm. But we also need to extend a hand of peace. If we don't, we'll be seen as nothing more than a threat to be destroyed. Marla's face was serious. A threat that will fight back, and we'll do it our way, on our terms. If they want war, we'll give them one they've never seen before. But peace was never guaranteed, especially in the volatile environment of the galaxy. While Earth prepared for whatever came next, the Sithar and other galactic powers were making their own plans. The Sithar began to rally their allies. They'd reached out to the Shavari, the Kranich, and the Tirith, the most formidable military alliances the galaxy had ever known. Together, they formed a council to address what they saw as the human problem. At the same time, the humans worked on improving their technology, developing new weapons and strategies. But more than just military might, humanity focused on something far more valuable: unity. The nations of Earth, once divided by politics and resources, were now united by a common goal. Their survival, their future, depended on it. As Earth focused on unity, the Sithar began to prepare for war. They knew that humanity's strength lay not just in its weapons, but in its willpower. And the will of the human race had proven to be unstoppable. The galaxy's fear of humanity was justified, but it was also the spark that would ignite the future. Would the Sithar and their allies strike first, or would humanity take the lead? One thing was clear. No matter what happened, the galaxy would never be the same. The galaxy was on the brink of war. Tensions ran high, and alliances were being formed in the shadows. Every moment felt like a countdown, ticking toward an inevitable clash. On one side, the Sithar, with their allies in the galaxy's most powerful military factions, stood ready to eliminate the growing threat of humanity. On the other side, Earth, a once-forgotten planet in the galaxy's farthest corner, was preparing itself for a conflict that could reshape everything. Humanity had faced extinction before, but now, it was fighting for a future in a galaxy that feared them. At the heart of Earth's preparation was the newly established Galactic Defense Initiative, GDI, a coalition of Earth's military, scientists, and diplomats who had come together to safeguard their place in the stars. General Marla Kane, Earth's lead strategist, was the public face of the GDI. Behind her, an army of engineers and soldiers worked tirelessly to adapt their technologies for the coming conflict. In the command center beneath the Earth Council's headquarters, the air was thick with urgency. The room buzzed with reports of the Sithars' movements, as well as their new alliances. It was clear that the Sithar weren't planning to wait for Earth to make the first move. President Roderick Vale paced back and forth, his mind racing. The situation had escalated quickly, and he knew that every decision from here on out would determine humanity's survival. The last few months had seen humanity take great strides in rebuilding their military strength. New starships, weapons, and tactics had been developed. But all of that might be for nothing if the galaxy's most powerful factions launched a preemptive strike. "I've sent messages of peace, but they're falling on deaf ears," Roderick said, frustration evident in his voice. "The Sithar are preparing for war. They won't listen to diplomacy." General Kane nodded, her expression cold but focused. "The Sithar won't stop unless they're forced to. They think they can control the galaxy through power and fear, but humanity isn't like any race they've faced before." "We've proven that already," Roderick said. "But it's not just the Sithar. The galaxy is watching us now. Every alien race, every species, is keeping an eye on Earth. Some want peace, others want to take advantage of this chaos." "Which means we're running out of time," Kane responded. "We need to act first. We can't wait for them to strike. If we give them the chance, they'll overwhelm us before we even have a chance to defend ourselves." The sound of the door opening interrupted their discussion. A young officer entered, holding a message that had just arrived through the Galactic Communication Network. It was from an unexpected source. "It's from the Tirith," the officer said. "They've made an offer." The room fell silent as the message was projected onto the large screen before them. The Tirith were a race of amphibious creatures, known for their cunning and neutral stance in galactic politics. They weren't allies of the Sithar, but they weren't enemies either. This unexpected communication was puzzling. The message was short and direct. "We are watching. The Sithar will fail, and you will survive. But survival will come at a cost. Humanity must decide. Will you lead, or will you fall in line? The galaxy demands your answer. Make your choice wisely." Roderick stared at the message, his mind racing. The Tirith were neutral, but their words carried weight. They weren't offering an alliance, but they were hinting at something. What was their game? Could they be trusted, or was this just another trap? Kane crossed her arms, her face thoughtful. "It seems like they're giving us an ultimatum. They want us to show our strength, to prove that we can take control of our own fate." "But why now?" Roderick asked, turning to her. "Why would they intervene? The Tirith have always stayed out of galactic politics. Why risk being caught between us and the Sithar?" Kane's eyes narrowed. "It could be that they're betting on humanity. The galaxy's factions are scared of us. They know we're unpredictable, and we've already changed the balance of power. The Tirith may just be testing whether we can be the new power in the galaxy." The message from the Tirith only added to the growing pressure. Earth now faced a choice: to fight and prove that humanity could stand on its own, or to bend to the will of the galaxy's powerful factions and risk losing everything. The decision was not just about survival. It was about setting a precedent that would echo throughout the stars. Humanity had been abandoned, but now they had the power to carve out their own destiny. Back in the heart of the Sithar Empire, Supreme General Zener received intelligence about the Tirith's message to Earth. He knew that the Tirith's intervention could be the spark that ignited the war they had been preparing for. The Sithar had long feared the rise of humanity, and now, with the galaxy's factions divided, they saw the human race as the greatest threat to their rule. "We must act quickly," Zener muttered to his advisors. "If we allow them to rally support, humanity will become the catalyst that reshapes the galaxy. We cannot let that happen." As the Sithar moved to prepare for war, Earth was at a crossroads. The decision to fight or negotiate would define humanity's future. Would they stand alone, or would they form alliances with those who feared the Sithar just as much as they did? The galaxy's future rested in humanity's hands, and time was running out. The galaxy trembled under the weight of decisions being made in secret council rooms, battle stations, and war-torn spaceports. On Earth, every eye was fixed on the skies, awaiting the fateful choice that would change everything. The time for negotiations had passed. The tension in the air was palpable. Humanity's next move would determine whether they would become rulers of the galaxy or be crushed under the weight of overwhelming forces. Inside the Galactic Defense Initiative's GDI Command Center, General Marla Kane stood before the massive holographic display, which showed the movements of the Sithar fleet and the surrounding alien forces. The Tirith's cryptic message still lingered in her mind. The threat was clear. Earth could no longer sit in the shadows. The galaxy had watched long enough. Roderick Vale, the president of Earth, sat at the head of the table, his face a mix of determination and worry. The decision was his, but the weight of it felt heavier with every passing second. "We can't back down now," General Kane said, her voice firm as she stared at the fleet's movements on the screen. "We either show them our strength, or we risk losing everything." Roderick's hand tightened around the edge of the table. "The Tirith gave us a warning, not an offer. They're playing their own game, but they are right about one thing. We can't afford to wait for the Sithar to make their move. We've been too passive for too long." Earth's military had been bolstered with the most advanced technologies humanity could create: hyper-advanced spacecraft, energy shields, weapons that could decimate fleets. But it wasn't the technology alone that had gotten Earth this far. It was the resilience of humanity, the sheer will to survive and defy the odds. For months, Earth had been gathering allies. The Fairhack, an ancient race with a reputation for fierce combat prowess, had pledged to stand with humanity against the Sithars' oppressive rule. The Jovian pirates, a ragtag group of rebels, had also offered their assistance, eager to see the mighty Sithar fall. Even the enigmatic Arsteri, a race of telepathic beings who had long kept to themselves, had shown interest in Earth's growing defiance. But the question remained, would all this be enough to stand against the Sithar Empire? "We don't have time for a slow buildup," Roderick said, standing up, his face hardening with resolve. "It's now or never. We send a message that the galaxy will never forget." He turned to Kane. "Prepare the fleet. I want every ship ready to launch within the hour. We're going to send a statement that no one can ignore." General Kane nodded and immediately began issuing orders. The GDI ships were quickly loaded with weapons and supplies. Every human soldier, every pilot, every strategist had prepared for this moment. Earth's forces were ready to take on the galaxy's most formidable enemy. Meanwhile, on the other side of the galaxy, the Sithar were preparing as well. Supreme General Zener's fleet had gathered at the edge of their empire, ready to descend upon Earth with an overwhelming force. They had underestimated humanity before, and they wouldn't make the same mistake again. Earth's defiance was a spark that had ignited something the galaxy had not seen in centuries: a war between the old and the new, between the established powers and a rising force determined to claim its place in the stars. Zener's orders were simple: destroy Earth's military, obliterate any resistance, and make an example of the humans who dared challenge their rule. The Sithar had never encountered a race like humanity, one willing to risk everything for survival. And they wouldn't be caught off guard again. Back on Earth, the final preparations were underway. Roderick stood in front of the massive bay doors, watching as ships of all shapes and sizes were being launched into space. Earth was not alone. Their allies had rallied to their side, ready to stand shoulder to shoulder in the battle ahead. As the last ship departed, General Kane joined Roderick on the observation deck. They stood side by side, watching the fleet disappear into the blackness of space. "This is it," Roderick said, his voice steady despite the weight of the decision. "Once we engage, there's no turning back. We'll either prove humanity's worth to the galaxy, or we'll fall. But we won't be forgotten." Kane nodded, her eyes narrowed with focus. "We fight for survival. We fight for the future of humanity. We're not just defending Earth anymore. We're defending everything we stand for." The fleet of human warships, joined by their allies, gathered at the edge of the galaxy, poised to strike. The message they were sending was clear: Earth would not bow to the Sithar. Humanity would never be ruled again. As they approached the Sithars' stronghold, the tension was unbearable. On both sides, the stakes were high. This wasn't just a battle for control, it was a battle for the future of the galaxy. If Earth failed, the Sithar would solidify their hold over the galaxy. If humanity succeeded, they would send a message to every species in the galaxy. No one could challenge humanity's will. In the heart of the Sithar fleet, Supreme General Zener was watching the approaching human ships with a mixture of fury and disbelief. "They think they can stand against us," he muttered under his breath, his hands clenched into fists. "We will crush them." But he knew the truth. Earth had already changed the galaxy. Their courage and determination had inspired others to rise, and now they would face the greatest test of all. The time for words was over. The galaxy was about to witness the first true battle for humanity's place in the stars. This was the moment when Earth would either fall or rise to become the galaxy's new power. The countdown had begun. The war for the future was about to start.